Miles of hard road, 33 years of tough luck, 44 skulls buried in the ground, crawling down through the muck. Oh yeah!
The biggest day any club could have. This is what it's all about at club level, you know. You have the fucking players to take anybody out of the game. We've come from the gutter. I know the team is good enough to win. You got to show these lads. I'm actually player, manager and chairman of the local club, so hello Yvonne, how are you? Pat. In 1988 we were actually junior, we were at the bottom. Right? And Bosco said that he'd come home from America that particular summer to see could he stake a place, and only he could lob the goalkeeper from 45 yards.
I have to say in my defence, I did go for a point, but no, just generally I think it's tremendous for the town. There's a lot of guys home from New York. There's probably 10 people in total home for the weekend, and you know the players are a tribute to the town. I left Charlestown in March '84. There wasn't a whole lot going on in Ireland at that point. I mean, the busiest day in Charlestown back in 1984 was Dole Day. One benchmark I tend to use is that, you know, Charlestown got to the Mayo under-21 final back in 1983, and out of that, I went back from New York to play in 1988 for Charlestown, and at that point they'd gone from a senior team to being a junior team. There was just nobody around.
My parents had a total of 12 children, 7 boys and 5 girls. 9 of whom immigrated either to England or America back in the 40s. There was football played, but just kicking a pig's bladder round about the town and things like that, and having a good team such as we have today doesn't in it, because the whole countryside was absolutely, this part of the west of Ireland was completely, and all the other small towns were completely ravished with immigration. You went to America one time and you were gone forever. They call it the American Wake one time.
The last time I did this, I think I was an ultra boy. And coming out of the altar where I served many a mass. Manchester United have a technical director and they have Alex Ferguson, but we have one up in Manchester United. We have that spiritual advisor. What do you think? Is this man could be responsible for us breaking the 99-year hoodoo?
This is the hand of God here.
Stephen would be, you know, he's a very complex person. He's a very able person in all the areas that he does. You know, he's a teacher, he's the manager of the team, and he's chairman of the club. And you know, I would say every member of this, you know, community would respect Stephen for, you know, both his ideas. He's a very well-rounded fella in all areas of his life, I would think. That's what he does on a Friday night and a Saturday night. That's not my area, as they say. You know, but
we're going to get an increase in your subscription on Sundays, but it's out. And we're ready for.
And we're ready for. We said we're ready for the night ahead. My grandfather came from this town, you know, and it was actually the year he was born, and that's the last year they won it. So
he's only 12 months in the club, but I think he's a legend already.
I don't know about that, but as I say,
a living legend.
As I say, watch this space.
My uncle is John Healy. Probably up until his death in 1991, he would have been synonymous with the Irish Times, where he wrote a column called Backbencher. He wrote a couple of books. One in particular, No One Shouted Stop, was a book that was actually written about Charlestown. And it caused a lot of controversy at the time it was written, because he basically depicted the town as dying on its feet and that nobody in the actual area seemed to care. And, you know, it upset a lot of the natives who felt that he was, you know, selling the town short, and that he was turning his back on the people that he went to school with and the people that he grew up with. But really, you know, if you just stood back and analysed what he wrote, you know, what he wrote about Charleston was symptomatic of any little rural town in Mayo, Sligo, Leitrim, or Scommon. You know, people were going to school, they were leaving secondary school at 15, 16, and they were heading for the bigger towns and centres. They were heading for the Dublins, the Londons, the New Yorks, and they weren't coming back. So it was basically a town of middle-aged people, you know, who were just drifting, basically.
I think John Healy's book, you know, looking back to the 50s and 60s, God, it was a very accurate description. And, you know, he could have wrote it every 10 years, in my mind, in Charlestown, because, you know, it was just cycles of emigration. You know, it just, every 10 years, you'd have a bunch of younger people in the town, and then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 years later, they were gone somewhere. They were gone to Galway, Dublin, they were gone to London, or they were gone to New York. The era that we left in the 80s, you know, it was, you know, at times there were 3 or 4 years there where you would have fielded a better Charlestown football team in New York than you would have been in Charlestown. You know, the irony of the whole thing. But, you know, it's come full circle again, which is great. You know, there are not too many people leaving. There really is no need to leave Ireland at the moment.
My God above, I don't believe the good old days. There was no such thing as good old days. There was not a Charlestown died. And he was criticised because they had to go to England. They had nowhere else to go. They had to go to get work and get some money to buy food to eat, as simple as that. That's about the simple substance of it. There was nothing. There was nothing in the country.
The football this year has been a huge lift for the town, because we've had precious little to shout about really in the last 15 or 20 years, you know, from any perspective, leaving out the sporting perspective. So anything that gives the town a lift is great.
We are green, we are white, we are fucking dynamite.
Bit nervous now, a bit nervous, kind of creep in, you know. It's like when the lads chirp out there, this is our finest hour, you know.
This would be my first year actually involved on the managerial side of things. So we had a team meeting, we'll say, in early January 2001, and the players were told in no uncertain manner about their status, you know, in football terms in the county, that we hadn't won a championship game in 10 years, which really was a terrible indictment. So the players were reminded that they had to address 3 things: their commitment, their discipline, and their attitude. And if it didn't work out, we could put our hands up at the end of the year and say, okay, we gave it an honest effort, but it didn't work out.
Come on, Charlestown!
Last January, February last year, I personally was thinking of finishing playing football with Charlestown. Basically, there was less and less to go, even though my family is there. It wasn't worth my while going down playing all the games and training hard and then losing in the first round of the championship. So that's why I said I'd give it one last year. The excitement down the last 10 years from when I would have started playing senior football, it wasn't there anymore because we had lost so much.
And exactly 11:47 gone. Looking good though, tell you what. Come on!
You just have to understand what football means and what success at any level, what it means to a community. They talk about the boom, you know, and what it's done for Ireland. Round here, you'd find precious little evidence, you know, of any boom. Okay, there's 2 or 3 new housing estates come up in the last 4 or 5 years, which have brought a lot of outsiders into town with families. But I mean, in terms of investment in industry, you know, you'd be scratching your head wondering, where's the boom? I know for a fact that we're very, very privileged in Charlestown to have had the success that we've had this year. And I know that the small town, the length and breadth of not only Mayo, but the length and breadth of Connacht and Ireland, who would swap their right arm to sample what we have achieved this year.
That's it, Caffrey! Racing in, Mark! Yes! Yes, Hunting! Yes!
And it's lifted the whole community. It's given the community a sense of purpose. It's given them something tangible that they can identify with. Anything is possible, providing you have a focus and you have a belief and you have a commitment and you're prepared to make sacrifices.
He's winning a couple of balls, Ray. You just got to go out and take the chance and fucking break it away from him like that. You're doing all right. You're doing all right, Ray. But I know you can step up in the second half.
You've got to get dug in, lads. Every fucking man's got to get dug into his play. No matter who he is.
I want you to fucking skin that fella. That fella's got his tongue down as far as here. We've trained lads too fucking hard to lose this game today. It doesn't even come into our thoughts losing, lads. We must keep it up, boys.
It's time the fucking lost of us now stood up. Be fucking counter, boys. This is the fucking day we all be counted. Come on, boys.
Let's get the first score, lads, right? We don't need to be motivated because we're a bunch of fucking men, lads. And we don't need no motivation because we know what we're going to do out here, right? We're going to work our socks up and we're going to start from the word go. We're not going to wait for them to get the first point. Because they get a couple of points on, we're back in fucking trouble. We're on top now, let's stay there. You know how we do it, lads.
As a mother of players on the team, it was horrific. God help us all. I don't know how the mothers and fathers and the families put up, and our hearts stick it, that there isn't so many more people dying from strokes, heart attacks and anything else that goes with it. They've given us the best years of our lives in Charlestown.
People are better educated nowadays. They want to see a choice there for their sons and their daughters. They want to be able to see the fact that if their sons and daughters go away to college and they get a degree after 3 or 4 years, you know that they have an option there to come back and use what they've secured in college, you know, in their own area to maybe make it a better place to live for their future.
This is, as Jack Nicholson said, this is as good as it gets.
This job. No one wants to take over us bunch, and most especially, no one wants to make me captain.
The hand of God is touching the air. Lads, just one thing, lads. We'll have a good night tonight, lads. We'll have a good week. There'll be no training this week, but what we need to do, lads, is in a couple of, maybe in a week or two's time, we need to sit down as a panel and decide where we're going to go from here over the Christmas.
To win the county final after 99 years to be captain was special. But people said we mightn't have the battle for Connacht, so to go on and win it in Connacht was something unbelievable. It's great for the town, the people of the town, the older people of the town. That's what it means so much. It's good for us, but we get over anything, but it's very special.
About 10 of us came home from New York yesterday, Saturday, and majority of us are going back tomorrow. So it was a crazy weekend, but I think it's worth it. You know, it's the pride of the community, and it's the pride of the town, and it's great. You know, thank God to be alive for it. It's who'd have ever thought of Charlestown Connacht champions? It's out of this world.
It brought tears to your eyes. You know, you had, you know, men of like 50 years old in the stands in Castlebar hugging each other. You know, they knew that their moment had arrived. It was, you know, this was it. After 5 generations of footballers in Charlestown, this was the moment.
Is the players' attitude. They have really stepped up this year. In the past, we had X amount who were prepared to pull their weight, and we had a few who weren't. Plus, there's great pride. It's a great affiliation to go and represent the Charlestown. We'll take stock, we'll sit down and we'll analyse where we go from here. We're in All-Ireland semi-final, we're down to the last 4 in Ireland. Something that we thought would be a dreamland at the start of the year, but it's now reality. We have to prepare for that. We're going to be facing Nemo Rangers in the semi-final, an all-star team. We're hopeful.
I work as a portfolio manager for Deutsche Bank, where I manage money for high net worth individuals. I've been doing that for almost 10 years. You know, you're kind of working in the Midtown Manhattan with all the hustle and bustle, and there's, you know, cars screeching, you know, left, right, and centre, and you've got the concrete jungle. And when I tell people in New York what it's like to live in Charlestown, it's like I'd say it's almost like another planet.
Goddamn right, it's a beautiful day. Goddamn right, it's a beautiful day.
I mean, you go back to Charlestown and people are not as controlled by the clock as they are here. I mean, we wake up here Monday morning and the gun goes off and, you know, it doesn't stop till Friday evening. I mean, basically, the time you get home and you're just kind of go back like this on your couch and you're like, okay, let me get to bed to get some sleep, you know. I mean, that's kind of, you know, that's normal. So I guess, you know, the inevitability of it, you get married here. I'm married to Eva, who's, you know, was born in this country, and we have 3 kids now. So, you know, obviously there's the inevitability of knowing that you're not going to go back and live in Charlestown.
Alana is just, she's just beginning to talk, the middle one, so she's really cute. She's coming out with a new word every day. So she's great.
Getting ready for the next game, it starts with trying to bribe your wife to let me go. To me, they just deserve our support, and if that means coming home from New York just to show that, you know, our appreciation for what they've already achieved, I think it's as much, to me, it's as much that as expecting them to win. I think they're the big underdogs of this game against Nemo Rangers, but to me, I'm going back there as much to show them, to support them, and to show them that what winning a county and a Connacht championship meant for me living in New York, as much as what I think that their chances are for the next game.
Initially, at the start of the year, we wouldn't have been one of the best supported teams in Mayo, but the support base has swelled and swelled and swelled. You know, it's fantastic. That's something that'll live with me for as long as I'm on this planet. And you know, and the kids really, you know, now you don't see anybody running around with a Michael Owen jersey on, or a David Beckham jersey, or a Roy Keane jersey. It's a Sarsfield jersey, number 8, number 9. Even some of them have Tiernan on the back of their jersey. They have Higgins on the back of their jersey. You know, they've Dagnan, they've Casey, which is great. Because these are the lads, these are the heroes, you know. They can touch them, they can see them every day. You know, it's great.
I spent 4 summers in Chicago playing football and working. And I came home in '97 with the opportunity to join the Guards. It was either that or stay out in Chicago. Years ago, the work wasn't here. And to an extent, it is here now in the big cities, but it's not here in the likes of Charlestown. That's why so many of our friends are still out in America. If they work, they don't want to come home and say start working in Dublin. Like, well, you know, they as well stay out in New York, wherever they are. If they did want to come home, they'd like to move down west, down near Charlestown. But the work isn't there, so hence they're unable to come home and set up a home back here?
I would have done my Leaving Cert in 1987, and I'd say out of a class of 51 at the time, I'd say at this minute in time, there's probably only 3 or 4 who would be actually settled and making their living in Charlestown, or if not in Charlestown, in close proximity where they can travel up and back, over and back to Charlestown every day. I'd say the vast majority of the rest of my class would have settled elsewhere. I'd say at this minute in time, I'd say there's probably 20 or 30 who would be actually out of the country in places like England and America and that.
Really? Fierce, yes, but I'm looking for another word for fierce.
I would have spent 3 years in Dublin in my late 20s when I went back to college as a mature student. But I mean, it's by choice that I came back to Charleston. I was lucky enough that I happened to get fixed up as a primary school teacher within close proximity, which enables me to live in the town. You know, there's no doubt about it that there's a definite gap there between the larger urban centres, places like Dublin and Galway, and a small town like Charlestown, for example, you know? I mean, in terms of, you know, employment, you know, there's no comparison. And that gap still exists. You know, that gap hasn't diminished one iota in the last 30 or 40 years, and if anything, the gap has got wider. You hear this thing about people saying, why don't you move to another town where there's better facilities? Why don't you move to Dublin where there's everything's at your fingertip? But not everybody wants to live in Dublin. Not everybody wants to, you know, leave their homestead where they grew up, where they went to school, where they made friends. You know, people want to stay in their town.
If there was more things to do for young people in town, there possibly mightn't be as many people going away. The excitement was brilliant last year, and it was amazing to win the competition out. People came out in their droves to support us, and they had an unbelievable crack for a number of months down there. But it does make you think, where all this, what would do they have to celebrate in general without the football? Is there anything there for them to celebrate, and why can't they be excited every year about something? It seems to me in Charlestown that there is nothing else to be excited about.
I love them and I support them, and I'd go to see them play before I'd go to a dinner dance, before I'd go to a ball, before I would go any place under the rising sun, and everybody knows that. I wouldn't miss one of the lads' matches for the world. They come first to me. I want them to win so badly. I'm interceding in heaven. You're a saint. You might be a priest, Stephen, will you? Would you be a priest or a footballer? Which would you prefer to be?
Footballer. I would be a footballer too.
Would you prefer to be a priest or a footballer?
I would be a footballer. Go.
If they win, right, who are they going to play next then? Lisa? Ballinderry, isn't it, Jack?
Years ago, I used to have near gone on my 2 knees begging players to play. And you'd be asking fellas, there were no more fish. I remember one day we were going to a match in Ballinderry, 13 of us going. We're passing up by the church and 2 fellas came out of a pub. We brought them in to make the 15. We picked them up to make the 15. I knew they could play football, but I tell you, that day they couldn't play football, but we had to put 15 out, and that was it.